It also asserts that the human rights which the Supreme Court of the United States has given to corporations will not be recognized in Athens County with respect to corporations that violate our law. This provision elevates people's rights, community rights, over so-called corporate rights. This, my friends, represents community civil disobedience. But remember that no campaign in our history that have given more rights to people, think women's suffrage, think civil rights, no campaign has ever won without using civil disobedience. The American Revolution The American Revolution itself was promoted by acts of civil disobedience and was, of course, an act of civil disobedience itself. What we are embarking on here is nothing short of the promise of liberty of the American Revolution. Thanks.
As you all know, this is an event for Athens and also for Meigs County. So let's have a shout out for Athens, everybody. Athens! Let's have a shout out for Meigs, everybody. Meigs! And let's have a shout out for the Community Environmental Legal Defense Fund. Okay. I just want to make a point about rights, as John eloquently introduced. Ohioans have unequal rights. In Ohio, people living in cities have more rights than those living in townships. The county charter will change that. For example, Athens City passed a ban on fracking, as you all know, in last November, passed by 78% of the vote. People living in the townships outside of the incorporated cities do not have the right to pass that kind of an ordinance. But in a county that has a charter, that kind of legislation can be done by initiative petition of the citizens. Without a charter, the county is nothing but a creature of the state with no authority whatsoever to act on its own, and that includes the fact that even the commissioners cannot pass laws. They implement policy, they cannot pass laws, whereas the mayor of the town, city council can. So when we talk about a charter, we're talking about empowering the people and empowering our representatives, our elected representatives at the same time. Now, what could be too scary about that? Now, if you don't believe what I just said, Chapter 2 of the Commissioner's Handbook is my authority. It cites an 1857 Ohio Supreme Court decision. 1857, I think that was before the Civil War. Quite a bit of buffalo grass out there where we have some towns now. But they said that the handbook says this is still relevant. Counties are local subdivisions of the state created by the sovereign power of the state without the consent of the people who inhabit them. That's the state law for the county that is relevant for today. 100 years later, 1967, another court ruled, the county is a creature in the hands of the state as its creator, subject to be molded and fashioned by the state as exigencies of the situation may require. 10 years later, 1977, another court, statutory counties, that is, all the counties in Athens, all the counties in Ohio except Summit and Cuyahoga, so as of now, Athens and Meigs, they serve as a mere agency for the state for certain specified purposes. Now, after citing this is now the Commissioner's Handbook. This is now orienting the new commissioners to their new jobs. It says, it uses the word enraged. I couldn't believe it. It's written by the Secretary of State, one of our favorite people. The word enraged actually occurs in the handbook when it says, many county officials become enraged when they are reminded of the court rulings that inform them of the limitations on their responsibilities and their authority. So what we're looking for, in fact, with this charter is some enraged people who want to run for commissioner because they would now, under a charter, have authority to pass laws and actually perhaps do something. Instead of saying our hands are tied, we did our best, vote for me. I mean, that's not enough. We want people and we want our leaders to have authority. Now, luckily for Ohioans, the same handbook, Commissioner's Handbook, has a Chapter 2. And Chapter 2 lays out all the privileges and the structure of a government that has a county charter. And any county can adopt the charter. The charter gives the county new authority almost equal to that of a municipality or a city. And there are two methods for getting a charter as explained in the Constitution, but the handbook is what I'm referring to. The first is called direct democracy, where the citizens themselves circulate a petition and establish a charter by initiative process. That's exactly what we have done in Athens. It's actually what we have done also in Meigs, and there are two other counties, Fulton and Medina, that are in the same process. So that's the first method. It takes about a year. It takes a year to write the charter and then circulate petitions and get it on the ballot and vote. The other way is using representative democracy, where a 15-member commission would be elected first, then that commission would write a charter, and then that would go on the ballot. So it really is a 3-year process. So nobody has actually proposed that second method, but we have, in Athens, as you know, circulated a petition, and we have a charter that is, we hope, headed for the ballot, but we still have a little bump in the road called the Ohio Supreme Court, which Nancy Pierce will talk about in a minute. Okay, so where we are today, we collected 2,111 signatures in Athens, and if you count the other counties, that came to a total of 9,000. So in our county, 2,111. In our county, Athens, there was one protester and one Secretary of State who said no. This charter shall not go on the ballot. That has been challenged by Community Environmental Legal Defense Fund, CELDEF, public interest law firm, 501c3 charitable organization. They work without pay from us, except what we can afford to give them. They are defending us today in the Supreme Court, and they defended us in 2 cases previous to this, which has led us to this point. We have been successful in this, in the other case. So, consequently, here we are. We hope next week we'll have a decision from the Supreme Court. We hope that it will be favorable. Let the people vote. That's all we ask. Let the people vote.
Thank you, Dick. And now I'd like to bring up another one of our committee members, Andrea Reich. You know, we all have a story. Every one of us on this committee have a story. And so Andrea's going to share just a little bit with you right now.
I'll be quick, and I have no notes. This is coming from the heart. 3 years ago, I retired from public service. Then I went on to the Obama campaign in November, met some great folks, and next was injection wells. I'm a kayaker, I'm a hiker, I want to paddle down the Hocking River. I'm scared to do that. I want you to look around the room and look at the photographs, look at the numbers. We are drowning here. I have written many letters. We have gone to Columbus. We have met with Debbie Phillips, Lou Gentile, Athens County Commissioners. We have tried to meet with Sherrod Brown. We have filed a lawsuit through ACFAN that's sitting in court. 18 months. Nothing has happened. I cannot sit here and watch the numbers increase. Last year we had over 12 million gallons of frack waste come to these injection wells. January to June, we're at 2.2 million barrels. We're close to what we were last year for the whole year. That is without KNH3 that's already been approved. KNH, if you look at the map, It's in Coolville, it's at the rest area. And we just found out 2 days ago that the Aether well that's on the map has put in an application for a second injection well. We are drowning here. We have had no impact with lawsuits and letters. You know, when we talk about what do we do next, the only thing I haven't done is been arrested, and honestly, if I thought it would make a difference, I'd be there tomorrow. This is heartbreaking. This is where I've lived for 40 years. My husband and I, we raised kids. We plan to be here forever, and I don't know. How do we stop this? We are not being listened to. What do we do as citizens in this community to say that enough is enough? The charter is another tool, another opportunity to say no, to get our voices heard. And unbelievable to me, we can't even get it on the ballot yet. That's not acceptable. This is not democracy. This is not how I want to live in this community. So I'm really thrilled that you're all here. Get involved, look at those numbers, tell your friends. We need to continue to rise up and say enough is enough. If you've been reading Huffington Post or Rolling Stone recently, they talked about the C8 poisoning, Parkersburg and Torch. That was, many people died of cancer and birth defects. It's going to be the same story here if we don't continue to work on it. So I'm really glad you're here. Think of other ideas how we might get the message out, but I cannot sit here and do nothing. I have to feel like this is my community and I have a say in it. And I hope, I'm assuming since you're all here, you feel exactly the same way I do. We need to protect our water. We need to protect our land. We need to protect ourselves in a healthy way. So thanks for coming. Keep up the good work. Involve other people. It's our community, and I want to stay here in a healthy way. So thanks.
I'm one of those 70,000 people in southeastern Ohio and northern West Virginia who were poisoned by C8. I didn't learn about it till I came back from 25 years of living in Los Angeles, where I thought it was really contaminated by air and water. And then I came back to find out that I'd been living on South Canaan Road for 10 years and was contaminated for 10 full years. And, by the way, a lot of my neighbors up and down that road are dead and gone, and they died from bizarre cancers. I have a background in healthcare, and I've been with hospice and visiting nurses for the last 15 years. So, I've watched the patterns. I've watched the patterns of people who have died of bizarre cancers. And the corridor that's largest trafficked by those deaths is out 50 to Parkersburg and 24. So, I don't know, I can't say unequivocally that it's because of C8, but you do the numbers and you figure it out. But you look at these pictures and it's really astonishing. So when they say to me, I don't want to hear it from anybody in the oil and gas industry, it can't happen, it won't happen, we'll never, we're not going to have these leaks. It's just not true. It just isn't true, and I don't want to take the chance. So I'd like to bring up another friend. And where is she? Can I see you? I don't even see you. Well, there you are. Nancy Pierce. Nancy, come up here and say something, please.
Well, I am going to speak from the heart, but I'm also going to use some notes. First of all, it's really wonderful to see the people here who are here. Really, really is. I mean, just looking around and seeing face after face of people who we know are really dedicated and really paying attention to things, and so thank you. I just wanted to say a couple of things about, there's sort of points of clarification maybe because of all the crazy stuff that's been coming out in the news. And the first one maybe is actually one that that hasn't come out so much, but we have sued in the Ohio Supreme Court, we, Athens County Charter Group, and with CELDF as support, to require to require the Secretary of State to put the petition on the ballot. It's called a mandamus action. And the truth is that the law is very established, very well established about what an administrative official does with an initiative petition. They look at the signatures and they look at the form. And if that is correct, they put it on the ballot. Whether or not they are the Secretary of State or the Board of Election or city clerks in some cases, they don't decide whether that initiative petition is legal. We have 3 branches of government. We have administrative, we have legislative, and we have legal. And it is for the court system to decide whether that initiative petition is legal. Right on, yeah. And so this particular case that is before the Supreme Court is possibly, if I'm hoping that they are going to rule in our favor along the lines of established law. I'm a little worried that it might go to set a precedent that would give more rights in a way that would be harmful to our democracy, citizens doing initiative petitions. So that is one thing I wanted to say. The other thing I wanted to say, it has to do with if the charter is passed, and Dick was talking about how if we have a charter in Athens County, we can pass laws. And there is a law that was passed in the city of Athens. It's called I refer to it as Title 47. Chris Ball drafted it with Lisa Eliason, and it provides for a fee to be charged to any company, any group that would drill or any fracking, injection well, any kind of drilling inside the city of Athens. And that fee goes to pay for monitors that the city would place around any sort of well or fracking like that. And the fee is somewhere between $10,000 and $30,000. That's how the city's got it written. We could do that in the county if we had a charter. And it seems to me that it provides a certain amount of discouragement as well as safety for citizens to have that kind of law in place. Anyway, just one thing we can do. If we have that charter, like Dick was saying, we can pass laws. We could also put in place this kind of monitoring around any kind of injection well. And that's been found to be, to stand up legally under by the Ohio Supreme Court. That's what I have to say. Thank you.
So I think the big point to take away from all these speeches by our committee is we are really confident, we're hoping, we're keeping our fingers and toes crossed about this charter being passed and put on the ballot, this initiative. We're waiting for the Supreme Court decision, but we are not going to stop. By the way, Greg has run for office before. You may know him from that.
I was a dedicated bunch. If everybody would stand. Give you a little background, I've been with the doc since pretty close to when it started, and the Meigs County group has been, our first meeting and organization was back in December. So we've been working on this a while, the petitions, everything's through, and I'm not sure all of you are aware of all the problems we've had in Meigs County, but with what the commissioners have done. And this is at the district court right now on the writ of mandamus to get the commissioners to put it on the ballot. And they've been caught in their illegal activities, and We have a problem you don't have in Athens County, is that we don't have journalism in Meigs County. Yeah, the local newspaper does not report anything but the status quo of the ruling elite, I guess is how to put it. But I'll tell you how what's going on in Meigs County a bit. They've got this dock is supposed to be completed in September, and they're working on the underground systems. They're probably doing pipe systems to different wells. They have 2 more wells permitted, and I understand that the people in the area watching the Ravenswood Bridge in the daylight hours in the early evening, they could count 75 trucks a day coming to the Meigs well. So it looks like Athens is going to get number 2 spot pretty soon. Meigs will be number 1 in injection well liquids. So they'll be bringing it by the barge, which is hundreds of trucks in a single unit. And it looks like it's all set up like Torch and what's going on in Meigs. Everything is close to the river, so if they have leaks, that's where it's going to go. And so it'll be a lot harder to detect. But I look at the charter, we get the charter, the controlling the injection wells is the first thing, but what the charter can do for us after that in economic development and getting the type of communities that we want is very big. Now in the video project through DOC, that'll be publicized soon, but there'll be changes in the power grid and our internet systems and agriculture, and we get more people in the room and think about this, and there's lots of things that can happen. So that's all I've got.
There's always an extra lamb, somewhere in the house. I'm very pleased to have the opportunity to introduce Tish Odell. Just as a slight background, one of my heroes is Marshall Dance, who worked in the civil rights movement and also United Farm Workers. And he wrote a book called David Sometimes Wins. And in it he said, basically the structure of a successful organization is that it must have a story, it must have a strategy, and it must have a structure. And he points out that the Occupy movement had a story and a strategy, and they were able to go so far, but without a structure, they didn't really have an organization. It was an idea that caught on, but then it just as quickly faded. What CELDEF means to us is that they provide structure, because we have our stories. You heard from Andrea, you heard from Milena, and we all have stories. People that have suffered, people that have gone to these places and seen what's happening. That's the story that we tell. As far as strategy goes, this is our charter, the idea of organizing on the political level, whereas other groups organize, they have other strategies that they follow. But our structure really comes from CELDEF. This is the Community Environmental Legal Defense Fund. Tish is the president of the Ohio Community Rights Network, which is part of that. She's a member of another network that's nationwide. She herself was leader of a citywide successful initiative petition that established an ordinance, actually it was a charter amendment banning fracking in her city of Broadview Heights. So she has a lot of experience, and we meet with her on the telephone, all of us around the state of Ohio every month. She comes to, she's been here several times. She's talked to us on the phone as a group, as well as a community rights group here, the Athens Bill of Rights Committee. So with all that, I'm very pleased and proud to present to you the president of the Ohio Community Rights Network and the anchor of our structure in Ohio, Tish Odell.
I love coming to Athens. You guys know how to throw a party, you have good food, you have good music, and I even got flowers today from Sue from Meigs County, so that was a first, so thank you. And I'm going to use notes only because I have so much to say, and I could talk, and I could probably talk for like 2, 3 hours. I mean, you'd be, you know, wanting to go home and go to bed. So I have to do this to keep me on track. And one of the things, I wrote some notes, Nancy mentioned about the Supreme Court. And as much as I want to be hopeful and positive and tell you all, oh yes, this is going to fix things for us and we're going to win, I can't promise anybody that. And I got to tell you what's been happening in our state and what happened in my city of Broadview Heights. I'm losing hope real fast in the system. In the system and the structure the way it's set up today. And so I don't mean to be a downer there. I mean, I'm still hopeful. I have a little bit left, you know, and maybe we'll prevail at the Supreme Court and you guys will all get on the ballot. But I want you to be prepared. Okay? I don't need anybody like jumping off bridges or anything when the ruling comes in, because the groups are small enough and we don't need to make them any smaller. So just be prepared for that. And one of the things that I want to talk about with that, and this wasn't even in my original notes, but is what defines a win and what defines a loss. You know, and that's something that we all seem to have a big problem with. We're such a society and culture of we want to win, we want winners. But it's how do we define that? Okay? If you get, and we've all seen the regulations and that, so we knew about the fracking chemicals, right? They're awful and they're proprietary and they're hidden what's in those, right? Well, if we find out, and so where people work for 2 years to pass a law or regulation that now they have to disclose what's in those fracking chemicals. Yay, we won, right? Is that a win? Now you know what they're poisoning you with, right? But we all go, oh, that's a win. If in a few weeks the Supreme Court rules and they rule against you, everyone's going to be, oh, we lost. But did you really lose? If it helps reveal to more and more people that the structure and our system of government is not working for us, and you get hundreds more people to join you, is that a win? Yes. Okay, so be very careful what you define as a win and what you define as a loss. So then I'll go now into my little, what I actually wrote. I tried to prepare for this evening, you know, and I was feeling overwhelmed and really bombarded because there's so much information. So I was like at a loss. Dick said talk for like, I don't know, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. I'm like, oh my gosh. So I really had to cut this down. So I began just reading some emails because I get so many emails every day in my inbox. So I always go there for inspiration. And I realized, reading a bunch of emails, that it seemed to me that many of our problems stem from, I call them the 3 L's. I just came up with that for this talk because they fit in here. But the 3 L's are language, labels, and law. So we'll start with language. So we know that, I mean, you're down here, OU, there's a university. Language can be used to educate, right? But language can also be used to manipulate. Let's be honest. I know you have all seen many examples of this, especially with this industry. So we're all taught from the time we're little that we live in a democracy, right? That's one of the words, the language. Democracy, by the people, for the people. And I know 4 years ago, when I was just learning about this and the attack on my community in Broadview Heights, I bought into it completely. I mean, hook, line, and sinker. I was the typical citizen. I thought, wow, we really live in a democracy. We have the right to vote. We can petition our government, we can make laws, and then I came face to face with this industry just like all of you are. The oil and gas industry, in case you don't know what I'm talking about. So then, you know, went to my electeds, local electeds, hit the same brick wall that you guys hit immediately when they said, oh, we can't help you, our hands are tied, go to the state, right? So right away I'm thinking, you know, well, wait a minute. We elected you people to represent us, right? I mean, isn't that how it's supposed to work? They represent us. So they sent us to Columbus, told us to deal with our electeds at that, you know, level. Like you heard from some other people, yeah, I couldn't get appointments. I think it was Andrea who said that. No one will talk to you. We got some appointments, but they just shook their heads at us. I called them bobbleheads. You know, I took in a stack, me and another mom, of like pictures and photos of all the awful things going on, and they'd just sit there and go, No action. So, you know, my entire life, I truly believed in our democracy and these electeds represented us. So just like you, and a lot of you got to this point either, you know, I thought, well, did I like miss a whole like class in school? Did I miss a whole unit? Like something's not right here. You know, and I remember someone actually laughed at me at the beginning when I was like so indignant. You know, I'm like, well, this can't be right. We live in a democracy. You know, and they burst out laughing. And they go, no, we don't. We live in a plutocracy. And then someone else mentioned something about an oligarchy. You know, and I gotta admit, you know, I was really feeling stupid at the time. I'm like, I really don't know what those things are. I know I live in a democracy. So I quick went home, you know, and I pulled my computer up and I Googled both plutocracy and oligarchy. And so in case there's any of you in the audience who like really don't know, I'll tell you what they are. So you don't have to go home and Google it. But the first thing is I looked up democracy. You know, in democracy, the actual definition, and I was like, okay, government by the people, especially rule of the majority. A government in which the supreme power is vested in the people and exercised by them directly or indirectly. So I was like, at least I knew what that meant. I was like, good, I was on target. So now I looked up plutocracy. Government by the richest people. A country that is ruled by the richest people. A group of very rich people who have a lot of power. I was like, huh. Okay, maybe I was misled. So then I looked up oligarchy. A country or business, etc., that is controlled by a small group of people. A government that is controlled by a small group of people. I don't know, I'm like, this sounds more like I live in an oligarchy and a plutocracy, not a democracy. So I was in shock. You know, how could I have not known for all these years? I mean, I'm not young. How could I have not known that we didn't live in a democracy? So, you know, I thought maybe it's the language, right? So I come back to language. The language that the media uses, the language that our government uses, the language that industry uses. It's all intentional to propagandize us and to get us to be confused, right? So that's the language part. Another language that I had to learn, and you've all had to learn it, is the language of regulation. You know, and I learn new words every day, it seemed, and as you probably do, you're researching this because it's all new. And I know the simple one is brine. Everybody here is a brine. And back then, you know, I cooked a lot. So it was like, okay, that's something I marinate my turkey in or make sauerbraten in. I'm half German. But then there came words like endocrine disruptors, volatile organic compounds. You know, and I was never a science person in school either. I kind of then was thinking, well, I must have not been a government person either. I don't know. You know, and then I came across words when you're doing the regulation stuff, acceptable limits. You know, that was an interesting combination of words, I thought. And they were scary words. Toxins, cancerous. So then, you know, it didn't take me long to figure out what regulation, what it really meant is that the harm would be allowed. But it just meant that the harm would be in regulated amounts. And personally, I didn't want my son breathing any amount of VOCs, or being exposed to any endocrine disruptors when I found out what those words meant. And what the heck did the EPA mean that there's acceptable limits of these chemical-causing, toxic, you know, cancer-causing things in my water and in my air? So I'm going to stop there, but that was my first L of language, okay, that I came up with. So, you know, but you get the idea. We have to stop accepting what the words mean on the surface, and we need to think about what we're being told and what's actually happening around us. So in other words, you can see what they're, or hear what they're telling you, read what they're telling you, but then you look around you and you see something completely different. You know, if the industry is so closely monitored, why are there explosions? Right? Why is Lake Erie more polluted today, and that's up by me? Our drinking water's threatened. We can't swim in the water most days at the beaches if it's so closely monitored, right? So there's a disconnect here. Okay, my second L, labels. You know, in 3 years now, I've been kind of doing this, going around to different communities. And I've sat in so many meetings in different places around the state, met so many people. And I can't even keep track anymore of how many times people want to put the blame for our current problems on other groups of people. You know, we've all heard it, right? The conservatives blame the liberals, The business owners blame the workers. The Democrats blame the Republicans and vice versa. The Christians blame the Muslims. The Americans blame the communists. The Democrats blame the independents. The Republicans blame the Tea Party. Blacks blame the whites blame the Hispanics. Hispanics blame the Asians. Poor blame the rich, and the rich blame the poor. You know, it's sometimes unbelievable. I mean, I'll sit in meetings like, oh, well, it's so-and-so's fault. It's so-and-so's fault that this happened to our country. You know, and people need to stop and think what all this labeling does. What does it do, and who does it benefit? When we label each other, it fragments us. It fragments our communities. When we don't talk to our neighbors because they have a different label than us, we're helping to fracture, no pun intended, our own community. You know, I've heard people say in my community they won't let their children sell school fundraisers anymore door to door or even go trick-or-treating because it's too dangerous. You know, and there's so much fear. Fear is spread every night on the nightly news. And the government uses fear. And that fear works to their advantage as well. No one knows their neighbors, let alone even talks to them anymore. And this helps big industries and the government because while they're all working together and forming allegiances and bonds for their common benefit, which is usually about making more profit, we're sitting alone in our houses, usually complaining about the good old days, talking about those and how apathetic all the people are. So part of the community rights movement is about bringing people within a community back together. But this can't happen if we continue to always label each other, people, and then refuse to approach them because of those labels. We instead need to look at what we have in common. We all need clean air. We all need clean water. We all need good soil to grow healthy food in order to survive. And if we care about a future for our communities that hopefully ensures that they will be healthy and livable for future generations of our own family and others. Without clean air and water, our communities will die, just like the people who live in them. And finally, our last problem, the L of law, the law. I got an email yesterday from a gentleman in a community up in Northwest Ohio by Fulton County. So they're working on the same thing that you guys are here. And he attached an email and he said, maybe we should try something like this. So of course I opened the link. Okay, let's try this. I'm always open to new ideas. Well, the article was about a small community that had sued the drilling industry for repairs to their roads. And they were awarded $850,000 for road damage. So I responded back, wow, what a win. If you consider smooth roads more important than clean water and clean air and an environment that doesn't make your children sick, sometimes I send those kind of emails and then people get mad at me. But his response back to that was, well, at least it's something. And if that's all we can get, then that's what we should go for. Oh yeah. Okay. This is all day for me, pretty much, every day. My reply, first of all, was we have to stop saying that that's all we can get. If we claim to live in a democracy, that we need to set our expectations a little bit higher than that. Second of all, we have to quit buying into this idea that the law only allows us to sue for money after we've been harmed, or our community has been harmed. If your water supply is polluted, or your family is sick with toxins in their bloodstream, there is no amount of money that can fix that, at least not in my mind. You know, we seem to have forgotten that people create government to protect their rights and that people can make law directly or through their elected representatives. Now, not all of you here and not some of us in Broadview Heights, but most, I'm talking about the other people outside this room. Well, we have the second part of that down really good, but it's, you know, the first part that we've forgotten. And we seem to confuse law with being legal. What's legal? So I like to think of law more in terms of what's legitimate and what's just. So legitimate law and just law. What makes something legal? Our legislature passes a law, right? Or our council in our city passes a law, and that makes it something legal or illegal. Well, our Secretary of State, our legislature, and our judicial system seems to think that giving rights to drilling companies over the people in the communities is legal, because that's how they've written the law. Well, I want to remind everybody, it was once legal to own people. It was once legal to keep women from voting. And it was once legal to separate people by race. What's different about those laws and the laws that strip the people in Athens County and all over Ohio from passing laws that protect their community? I mean, what's different? What's different about those laws and a law that takes away the people's constitutional right to initiative? What's different about those laws and a law that strips people of their right to alter and reform their government? If the Secretary of State, who is part of the government that the people may want to change, has the ability to keep the people from placing initiatives on the ballot to give the people a voice in altering or reforming that very government, is that legal, or is it an illegitimate abuse of power? If the very government, think about it, I mean really, if the people, if that's part, we say that's part of our founding and grounding law, right, in this country. Well, it's not really law, Nancy will, I'm sure, fix it. You know, I always get confused because I'm not a lawyer. I forgot to say that at the beginning. I was just a resident like you people 4 years ago. I've learned a lot about the law, though, just like you guys are learning it every day. But we believe that, right, that we have the right to alter or reform our government. The people have that right. And even, it goes further, it says to abolish the government and form a new one, if we so choose. Well, if that government that you want to change can block you at the ballot from actually making any changes, do you really have that right? So, you know, we're so stuck in what the government defines as law, and that we're allowing them to kill our communities, our environment, our planet, and in some cases, even our families, all because they claim it's legal. You know, and I don't know about all of you, we all have to make our own decisions, but I'm just not willing to accept this. Just as the abolitionists, the suffragists, and civil rights activists refuse to accept those prior laws as legal. And I hope no matter what the Supreme Court decision is or when it is rendered, that you will all continue to be active in the community rights movement. That we will work together to educate people on the misuse of language and to educate them with the truth. That we will work together despite the labels meant to divide and separate us. And that we will continue together to challenge unjust laws and work to create new ones, just ones in their place. So I want to thank you all for inviting me. You're all an inspiration to me, all of you. I mean, the work you do, the fact that Athens County was kept off the ballot and then came back, that's the kind of spirit that we need. And only by us in numbers can we make the change. It's the people who will make the change. And that's the one, I use that quote a lot. Remember, politicians don't make change, people make change. Thank you. Yeah, and I want to make an announcement too.
Let's ask or answer questions.
Before you guys really bombard me if you have any questions, I want to just announce too, we're actually doing a protest, in case you didn't get an email about it, this coming Wednesday in Columbus, because it was just too perfect. I mean, I know it's short notice, but the Secretary of State Husted is speaking at the Metropolitan Club in Columbus. So we just thought that was too good of an opportunity. There'll be a few people from the counties, I think, that are heading into the luncheon to ask a few questions of Secretary Husted. And then we're going to have a protest outside, and then after the protest there, we're going to march to the Supreme Court, which is less than 3 blocks away, to let them know how we feel. So obviously, the more bodies we can have there, the more people, hopefully the more effective we'll be. The election, where the key part of that comes in though, we start sending out now, we have absentee voting. Ballots start going out already the end of September for overseas and military. October 1st, the absentees go out. So technically they could make a decision before the election, but it could be too late to get on the ballot. Will it go on the next ballot? I don't know. We'll have to get to that bridge. I think you'd have to collect signatures all over again. But I'm not sure. I don't know the answer to that. Nancy, do you know? No, that's something we'd have to research. We do everything one step at a time.
Signatures are not difficult.
Yeah.
We got them really fast this second time through. So if we have to collect signatures, we'll stand there at the polls and we get more than half on the first day. We're good at collecting signatures.
You've got a lot of experience.
Usually, thanks for using your earlier, usually it takes some kind of major catastrophe in an area before it gets everybody's attention. We really don't want to wait for that catastrophe. We've already had a couple moderate ones like the fish kills, the fire, earthquakes, and we know this is coming, but we don't want a major catastrophe to get everybody's attention. Do you foresee that we're going to have, even if it fails in the Supreme Court, we're going to make headway without getting to that point?
Well, and that's an interesting, well, it's an interesting point because people have brought that up, and I've been at meetings, they go, in the environmental movement, we need to have a major catastrophe. I'm like, are you kidding? We have one every day. We have one every day. I mean, the BP spill wasn't a major catastrophe. I kind of think it was. We up in, Northeast Ohio, Northwest Ohio, they had 3 days without drinking water because Lake Erie was so polluted. I just read in the paper today, they're on track to be even worse this year than it was last year. I mean, I think that's awful. We have glaciers melt. I mean, I don't know what the tragedy has to be that is going to wake people up. So that's why we have to keep building the movement and more people. And it's really not about a particular issue or a single issue. And that's the thing about this rights-based approach. It's not about a single issue. It's usually the single issue is what gets people involved and motivated, but it's really about our democratic rights. And do we, the people who live in a community, have the right to decide what kind of communities we want to live in? So we're the ones being stripped of our rights. So we have to keep the momentum going, whether this, passes or not. And if there's an accident here, that'll be awful. It'll be devastating. But I can't answer you to say, will that motivate a ton of people, to work on it? I don't know.
In your mind, if the RIBS mandate fails, and we don't, Athens doesn't get on, we can't get on next county with ours. We got county commissioners. If all that fails, what's our next step legally?
Well, you can we want to keep local communities doing this because it's all about making people in the communities, empower them to do this kind of thing, but there is a strategy to move to the state level. We realize our problem comes from the state, the highest level. So the Ohio Community Rights Network is actually working on language for a state constitutional amendment by initiative by the people. And what that state amendment will do, Colorado's currently working on theirs, they're collecting signatures, and Oregon just got approved too. But what they basically do, these state amendments, they don't talk about fracking or injection wells or anything. It's the amendment to the Constitution would be to give the local communities the right and that the state can't preempt them from passing laws in their communities. So that then makes it legal. That opens the door to make it legal for community bills of rights.
Some of us got to go to the democracy school that CLDF put on. Could you say something about that, and is there any chance that it will happen again in Athens County?
Oh, she asked about the democracy school that we put on. That's something CELDF does, and it's a day and a half. It's a national school. Actually, I'm glad you asked that, Nancy. We're actually coming up with a Ohio democracy workshop. It's a 1 day, and it's all related strictly more to Ohio and what's going on here in Ohio law. And we're unveiling that actually at our board meeting, September 12th. And then the goal is to bring it out to communities all throughout the state. So after September 12th, so mid-September, we'll have something that, if a community wants to bring that out, we can do that, and it'll be a 1 day school.
The democracy school was absolutely excellent. The materials were great. It was just really an experience for all of us who attended.
My husband and I came across you by accident. Again, I don't know how it happened, but we watched. There must have been 8 different sessions of a democracy school or something that had been given in past years. So anyone who wants to look into CELDF, they have a great website. You can watch video presentations. They're amazing.
Yeah, part of it, and that's the problem with movements to build. First, what we have to do is expose to people what the problem is. And that's what's so hard. And unfortunately, I wish there was an easier way than you having to go through this pain of collecting all these signatures, going through all this work, and then having, but this is what actually it does. It reveals the structure and the system and how bad it is and why we need to fix it. If I had come here 3 years ago and talked to you and told you and just said before you had done any of this, you don't live in a democracy. You would have all thought I was like some crazy kook. You know, you wouldn't have believed me. So unfortunately, you kind of had to go through all this to figure it out. Unfortunately, yeah, me too.
But it's interesting all the way through. Every step is interesting. And there's always hope that the tipping point will be reached when people finally realize that the government is really not looking out for them.
Well, what's really interesting, I was in Medina last week too, because obviously they had their, you know, they're in the same boat with you in Fulton County, and I was in Medina and the guy said to me, well, I know what we have to do. We just have to elect new people, and that'll fix it. So then we went through that whole thing and said, well, that's how you would like to think. You would like to think we could elect new people, but the problem is it's the system again. You know, what do you need? I said to him, what do you need to get elected? You need money, right? So it's usually, not always, but I would say 99% of the time, the people with the most money are the ones that usually win. So what happens is they wind up, and I know this because, and it's funny, you said you don't know how you came across cell death, and John said the same thing, and I laughed because that's how I came across cell death, because I actually decided in my community I was going to run for mayor. That's how I was going to fix the problem, damn it. It's like they're drilling and they won't stop, so I'm going to run for mayor and I'll fix it all. Well, I learned really quick, like, duh, I was naive, stupid. It's all about money. And I had a few fundraisers, and I looked at some of the checks even, and it made me very nervous. I didn't know who these people were. And they were writing me checks for like $250. And I started them, like, my heart started racing and I'm hyperventilating. And I said to my husband, I'm like, oh, am I gonna owe people favors? Like, what am I gonna have to do if I win? I didn't win, so it wasn't a problem, but that's when it really hit me, like, oh my gosh. I mean, you really have to pay attention because that's how it works. I mean, and if you watch the debate, Donald Trump came right out and told everybody that's exactly how it works, right? He said, I mean, for that, I can't fault the man. I mean, nobody in this country can say they don't know how it works. He told them. He said, I write checks to all the candidates, and then when that one gets elected and I need something from them, I call them up, and they owe me. I mean, that's what he said. Plain as day. So again, electing new people sounds really good, but until we fix the system, and we do have bills of rights, CELDF, just so you know, we don't just work on environmental things. There's a worker bill of rights out in the state of Washington right now. We also could do a fair and free election bill of rights. Why can't we, in our communities, decide how elections should be run? Why can't we decide that candidates running in our community can only get contributions of a limited amount and maybe only from people who live in the community? Why can't we do that? That would make things a lot fairer, wouldn't it? Yeah. So we got to think big, think outside the box. That's what we're all about. Get out of the hamster wheel.
Isn't that the kind of thing that we could do if we had a charter?
What?
Just what you suggested.
Yeah, well, you could try a fair and free elections thing. Yeah, well, in countywide, yeah. Athens City, you can already try that, yeah. So that would be one of the next steps too, is depending what happens, is talking about what the group, a new direction they might want to go in. But you're not going away. See, that's what they want to do. They think by all these lawsuits and the Secretary of State and all that, that they'll tell communities, don't even think about trying this where you live. Don't even think about it. And they think they'll make us just go away. So we're not going away. Yeah.
So what I'm confused about, are there other initiatives that have got on the ballot that have, you know, maybe something to do with something else, but they've been able to get on the ballot?
Mm-hmm. Well, Athens.
How can they?
Well, Athens, this is what they don't like. See, in Ohio, they see these bills of rights as a cancer. It's a cancer spreading, and they got to stop it now. So we passed ours in Broadview Heights. Yellow Springs passed one. Mansfield kind of passed one, not really, but kind of. Oberlin passed one. They sued Broadview Heights, the drillers, is what happened there. 2 years after we passed ours. 2 years we had no drilling. We were averaging about 15 wells a year in our city being drilled. Passed the Bill of Rights by 67%, and there was no more drilling for over 2 years. Then the drillers decided, you know, this is BS, or the drilling industry said, we got to end this now. Other communities might think about doing this. So they sued us. Well, yeah, the city claimed they would defend it, which they didn't really. And we tried to intervene as residents, but the judge denied us intervention, which is an interesting thing because I find that interesting. You had an intervener here?
Yeah.
Yeah, in your case. We were denied intervention by the judge because the judge said in our case, you residents, you can't really intervene in this case because you don't have a stake in this. And not only that, the city will defend you. And I'm like, then when I saw your intervener here in this case to the Secretary of State, I'm thinking, why doesn't the judge say the same thing? Well, the Secretary of State and the Attorney General is going to defend you, so you can't intervene in this case. But I have a feeling this intervener will probably be successful. So it depends on what side you're on and who they want to win. Oh, it was already accepted? Okay, Sam. Haven't gotten to emails in a while. Yeah. So, justice? Is there justice? I don't think so. It's very arbitrary. Depends on which side you're on, who gets justice. Anybody ready to slit their wrist yet? No? Yes?
My question is about the SOS, Secretary of State's rejection of the charter. Well, people said he has no legal right to do that, but yet he did it, and he claims that the charter is not legal because it doesn't dispose of alternative forms of government, and because we don't have the legal right to challenge the ODNR's
Right.
the governmental authority granted to control infection.
Right.
So the legal basis of that.
Well, that's what, I didn't finish my story, Broadview Heights, so that Broadview Heights lost. The drillers won, okay? And so that overturned
Is
the...
that what he's using?
He's using that and the Monroe Falls case, those two. So see, if you see the big picture, what they're trying to do is so then they can keep referring to those cases to nullify everything else. So what they're basically saying is that the drilling companies have more rights because they've been granted these rights, and now the judicial branch of our government, so the executive branch is representing the drilling companies, the legislative branch is controlled and owned by them, and now the judicial branch is going to say that they're also going to support, they're supporting the illegitimate laws that the legislature passed. So,
Is the lawsuit that we're having against the Secretary of State say this?
he's claiming that. Well, no, what Nancy touched on is the argument we're using. They don't even have the right to bring any of that up yet. Ohio law is pretty much that you put anything on the ballot that people, as long as the petition form is correct, which it was, and they have the right amount of signatures, it's supposed to go on the ballot. So,
They modified the marijuana initiative.
exactly. Isn't that funny? Again, it's not consistent, not right. Yeah.
I don't.
Bob.
Well, yeah, I think that's the gist of it. The Secretary of State says that Ohioans can smoke dope, but they can't vote.
Well, but that's the problem. Well, and that's the problem. Do we have a king in Ohio? You know, does the king get to decide what gets put on the ballot and what doesn't? I mean, that's not how any of this is supposed to work, and that's the point of the lawsuit. You know, it's called separation of powers, and he's taking over the judicial role right now by already deciding. So.
But we're not going to let them get away with it in the long run.
No, because, you know, that's what I was going to say about electing new people in Medina. I didn't finish that. See, I get all over the place then. In Medina, when the guy said we have to elect new people, and I said, oh, come on. I said, he goes, well, this is hopeless when I talked about money, and he goes, this is hopeless. And I go, hopeless? I go, think about the women's movement, suffrage movement. I go, they didn't even have the right to vote. They couldn't elect new people in to fix things for them either. I mean, come on. That was bad, and they overcame, so I think we can overcome.